Okay, yes. So Siegfried is a really interesting role to play. It's kind of a person that is on the cusp of becoming an adult and having to assume lots of new responsibilities. And so having to play that in a way that is relatable at the same time as easy to understand, I feel like it's the most challenging part of the role. Because technically it is also quite challenging. It's one of the great classics that has been danced by all of the great dancers. But I think the most interesting and challenging part is making the character make sense in a way that you can understand why he is having a hard time assuming those responsibilities, and then the weight of it, having to really think them, having to assume those responsibilities. I think that's the most challenging part of the role. Yes.
Catherine, can you go closer
Yeah,
to the
I'm really looking
microphone?
forward to being back with Manila and getting to see everybody. The last time I was there, I had a really lovely time, and I loved meeting everybody and dancing with the people in the company. So I'm just looking forward to being back there and getting to feel the energy from everybody again.
Thank you so much for your answer. Well,
One of the challenges someday is individuality. So, with either two completely different, and then you have a very hard time to make that intro. This is the introduction. So I think like the different technology of identity is really important. We have this community of Turkey, loyal, all that. Who find what is and then you have a primary motivation play. And I think if you look at this motivation, it shows you how difficult it is to do. So I think we're going to do a challenge with making sure that as technically hard as it is, it's what it's like. So every aspect to I think something in that character. And then I think that's
right? But I could ask, we could ask Esteban about how they feel about artistically performing Prince Siegfried. Is that what you mean? And Catherine, artistically performing
Yes, ma'am.
Odette Adele?
Yes.
Okay. All right, guys. So what's the most challenging part artistically of performing your roles in Swan Lake for Prince Siegfried and for Odette Adele?
Yeah, I think I misunderstood the previous question, but yes, this one I think I can answer with the same way that I did the last time. I think artistically it is making the character relatable in a way that because I mean, the purpose that he's facing is that he's having to assume responsibility and marry, pick someone that he should marry. Because he's not quite at that point yet, he doesn't feel ready to take on that kind of responsibility. And so I do think that artistically that's the most challenging part. How do you make the audience understand that sort of inner dialogue of having to make a decision and having to come to terms with your fate, and ultimately he decides not to follow what his duty asks of him, and he chooses love over duty. And so I think that part is quite interesting, and I think it's what makes it challenging artistically, but also very gratifying.
Challenging and gratifying. Wow. Thank you, Estella.
Swan Lake has been called a ballet warhorse because it is a ballet that any classical ballet company would put first and foremost in front of in a repertoire for a company to perform. A little bit like Nutcracker, but it is much, much more difficult than Nutcracker to mount. I think it is the standard that any classical ballet company can call itself a classical ballet company, that they are able to mount a beautiful Swan Lake. Again, because of the dynamics and the different demands of the ballet, where you really have to have at least 24 girls that are strong enough to dance all 4 acts as swans and as court maidens. And then there's also a lot of demand from the soloist roles of, say, the Paletroa in Act 1 and the Jester in Act 1. There is a huge demand from the principals of Odette Odile and Siegfried. And so any ballet company that puts a Swan Lake on, as I said earlier, has arrived and can really call themselves a classical ballet company in its true form and in its true being of a classical ballet company. I don't want to get very technical, okay? I remember coaching Catherine in the role and Abby, and I always tell them, and I tell the newbies now, like Pearl and Shira, and that don't forget the and count. Remember that, Catherine? Don't forget the and count. So in every pose, you pose, and there's the and 1, and 2. So that and 3. So always don't forget the and count, because that's the way that you can like really elongate and make the pose and the dancing much more dramatic and much more bird-like, especially for the swan. Wings are not just the arms, they start from the back, the shoulder blades and the upper back. So they're not just the arms, it's the whole back, the whole upper back. That's another. I can go on and on. The process is endless when you're coaching and when you're teaching and you're handing down the role. But I just feel very fortunate and privileged that I am able to hand down the roles that I danced before to the next generations of dancers, and it is a legacy that I'm very excited to be able to do.